ages 75 to 85. If you still do these 6 things, you're truly one of a kind. Dr. William Lee. Good morning, and allow me to share an insight that may profoundly challenge prevailing assumptions about aging. For decades, the medical establishment has perpetuated a narrative instructing seniors to embrace a slower pace, to take it easy, and to resign themselves to the inevitable decline associated with advancing years. However, what if I were to reveal that some of the most groundbreaking longevity research conducted over the past decade completely and unequivocally refutes this conventional wisdom? What if the very pillars of a sharp mind, robust strength, and unwavering independence at 75, 80, or even 85 years old are not the usual topics of discussion during your routine doctor's checkup, but rather a set of surprisingly simple, yet profoundly impactful daily habits that many individuals in your age group have quietly, almost imperceptibly, allowed to lapse? I am Dr. William, and throughout my extensive career spanning more than 2 decades, dedicated to working with patients in the 75 to 85 age range, I have consistently observed a phenomenon that scientific research is only now beginning to fully confirm and articulate. The individuals who navigate the aging process with exceptional grace and vitality, those who confidently drive themselves to appointments, who continue to nurture vibrant gardens, and who recall every grandchild's birthday without relying on written reminders, consistently exhibit a very specific pattern of behaviors. These aren't reliant on expensive supplements or complex medical interventions. They are foundational, replicable behaviors. A landmark study, meticulously published by the esteemed Stanford Center on Longevity, meticulously tracked over 4,200 adults, ranging in age from 70 to 90, for an impressive duration of 12 years. The findings emanating from this comprehensive research were nothing short of striking and demand our focused attention. Those participants who consistently maintained just 4 or more of these 6 specific daily habits were an astonishing 61% less likely to experience what researchers clinically term accelerated functional decline. This critical term refers to the rapid and often devastating loss of independence that prematurely transitions so many seniors into assisted living facilities far earlier than their true potential dictates. A 61% reduction is not a minor statistical blip. It represents a monumental difference between living one's life on one's own cherished terms, with autonomy and purpose, versus being compelled to live it according to someone else's schedule and limitations. Before we delve deeper, I must briefly tease something of paramount importance, as I understand the natural inclination to skip ahead. The single most powerful habit on this comprehensive list, standing as the most impactful of all 6, is a topic that is almost never discussed in traditional health circles. It bears no resemblance to conventional dietary recommendations or typical exercise regimens. In fact, most cardiologists, surprisingly, don't even deem it worthy of mention. Yet, the cutting-edge research emerging from prestigious institutions such as Johns Hopkins and the University of Edinburgh emphatically suggests that this particular habit may indeed be the single greatest predictor of sustained cognitive and physical independence after the age of 75. Therefore, I implore you to remain engaged until the very end, for this one insight truly possesses the potential to fundamentally transform your approach to the remainder of your life's journey. Now, let us systematically count down these transformative habits, starting with number 6 and progressing to number 1. Number 6. Drinking water strategically, not merely casually. This seemingly innocuous habit holds more complexity than commonly perceived, particularly after the age of 75, where many misunderstand the nuances of hydration. The prevalent misconception is that hydration functions identically at 75 as it did at 45, which is demonstrably false. After the age of 70, your kidneys experience a significant decline, losing approximately 40% of their filtering efficiency. thereby impacting the body's fluid balance. Compounding this, your body's innate thirst signals become considerably blunted, meaning you can genuinely become severely dehydrated without experiencing the conscious sensation of thirst. Furthermore, the capacity of your blood to efficiently transport vital oxygen and crucial nutrients to your muscles and brain diminishes markedly with every percentage point of fluid loss. Consider your bloodstream as an intricate river delivery system. When this vital river runs low, the delivery trucks, red blood cells, slow down. Essential packages, nutrients, oxygen, get lost or delayed, and the entire systemic operation begins to falter. This vivid analogy precisely illustrates the insidious damage that chronic, mild dehydration inflicts upon the aging body. Research from the European Journal of Nutrition, involving an extensive cohort of 3,500 adults over the age of 70, unequivocally found that individuals who consistently maintained a daily hydration intake exceeding 1.8 liters exhibited a remarkable 38% lower rate of urinary tract infections, a 29% reduction in falls, as dehydration dramatically compromises balance and reaction time, and significantly enhanced scores on short-term memory tests. It's crucial to remember that the brain, the command center of our being, is composed of approximately 75% water. Even a mere 2% drop in hydration levels precipitates measurable cognitive impairment at any age. But after 75, this effect is profoundly amplified because the brain's compensatory mechanisms are already working harder simply to sustain baseline function. The key differentiator that elevates this from a simple recommendation to a habit for truly exceptional seniors is their deliberate approach. They do not merely drink water when they remember. Instead, they consume 12 to 16 ounces first thing in the morning, before coffee, before breakfast, before anything else. This strategic timing addresses the significant fluid loss the body experiences overnight through breathing and minor perspiration, a deficit that, after 75, is typically 30% higher than in midlife. Subsequently, they consistently drink a small glass with every meal and another mid-afternoon. The synergy tip here is absolutely critical. Pair your morning water intake with a small amount of sodium, not common table salt, but rather a pinch of high-quality sea salt or an electrolyte tablet. This is vital because, after 75, your kidneys face increased difficulty in retaining sodium. Without sufficient sodium, plain water tends to pass through your system without being fully absorbed into your cells, precisely where it is most needed for cellular function and hydration. Consider Margaret, an 81-year-old from Boise, Idaho, who sought my consultation complaining of persistent afternoon brain fog, dizzy spells upon standing, and what she poignantly described as feeling like my thinking was wrapped in cotton. She wasn't dramatically dehydrated. Rather, she was chronically, mildly underhydrated. We implemented a single yet transformative change: strategic hydration, precisely timed with a small electrolyte addition in the morning. 6 weeks later, she enthusiastically reported that it felt as though someone had cleaned the windows of her mind. Her balance had remarkably improved, and her afternoon fatigue had significantly diminished. One simple habit yielded life-changing results. Number 5. Resistance-based movement at least twice per week. It is imperative to clarify a common misconception regarding this habit, as it is frequently misunderstood. When I advocate for resistance movement, I am not exclusively referring to the intense environment of a gym and lifting heavy weights. Rather, I am encompassing any movement that demands your muscles to exert effort against a force, whether that force originates from a resistance band, a light dumbbell, a wall push-up, or even the intentional act of carrying groceries. This nuanced distinction becomes enormously significant after the age of 75 due to a physiological process known as anabolic resistance. To elaborate, anabolic resistance signifies the diminished capacity of aging muscle cells to effectively respond to both protein intake and exercise stimulation. In practical terms, this means that after 75, your body requires a more pronounced signal, more intentional and consistent resistance to maintain the same amount of muscle mass that a 50-year-old could preserve with half the effort. Your muscles are not inherently lazy. They are simply harder to activate and stimulate. If you neglect to engage them consistently, they embark on a process called sarcopenia, which is the progressive and often debilitating loss of muscle mass and strength. Extensive research from the Mayo Clinic has unequivocally linked sarcopenia to a staggering 47% increased risk of falls, a 53% higher likelihood of being unable to perform basic daily tasks within a mere 5 years, and a dramatically shortened overall lifespan. Conversely, a study conducted by Tufts University tracked adults aged 75 to 85 who initiated a regimen of twice-weekly resistance training. After just 10 weeks, participants demonstrated an average 37% increase in leg strength, a 28% improvement in balance scores, and, a finding that consistently surprises people, a measurable improvement in insulin sensitivity. This improved insulin sensitivity directly impacts crucial physiological functions such as energy regulation, inflammation control, and cognitive function. The mitochondria within your muscle cells, which function as the literal power plants of your entire body, literally regenerate more efficiently when consistent resistance exercise is integrated into your routine. Therefore, you are not merely building muscle, you are fundamentally rebuilding the energy infrastructure that underpins your entire bodily system. The practical prescription for this is remarkably simple. Engage in 2 to 3 sessions per week, each lasting 20 to 30 minutes, with a focused emphasis on the large muscle groups, particularly the legs, hips, and back. Resistance bands are an ideal tool for seniors, as they offer progressive resistance without imposing detrimental impact on delicate joints. The synergy tip for this habit is crucial. Perform your resistance session within 30 minutes of consuming 25 to 30 grams of protein. This timing is paramount because, after 75, the anabolic window, the critical period during which your muscles can most efficiently absorb protein for repair and growth, is considerably shorter and less forgiving than in younger adults. At your age, precise timing is not merely an option, it is an absolute essential for maximizing the benefits of your efforts. Number 4. Maintaining a consistent, purposeful sleep schedule. Beyond the common understanding of simply going to bed early, the dynamics of sleep after 75 are far more intricate and critical. With advancing age, specifically after 75, your circadian rhythm, the body's intrinsic 24-hour biological clock, begins to undergo significant shifts and, critically, weakens. Your brain, for instance, produces approximately 70% less melatonin than it did at age 30, a hormone vital for sleep regulation. Furthermore, your slow-wave sleep, which represents the deepest and most physically restorative phase of sleep, can decrease by as much as 80% compared to its levels in your 30s. This particular phase is especially important because it is during this time that human growth hormone is released, a hormone indispensable for cellular repair, robust immune function, and effective muscle maintenance. What many people fail to recognize is that poor sleep after 75 extends far beyond simply feeling tired. Its ramifications are deeply physiological. A compelling study from the University of California, Berkeley, revealed that adults over 70 with persistently disrupted sleep patterns exhibited a startling 68% higher accumulation of amyloid plaques in the brain, the very same plaques scientifically associated with the development of Alzheimer's disease. The seniors who excel in this domain do not just sleep more, they prioritize sleep consistency. This involves adhering to a consistent bedtime, typically within the same 30-minute window every night, and waking at the same time every morning, including weekends. They meticulously keep their bedroom environment cool, ideally between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit, understanding that body temperature regulation during sleep becomes less efficient after 75, and a cooler environment actively supports the deep, restorative sleep their brain desperately needs. Critically, they avoid screens for at least 60 minutes before bedtime, not solely due to the blue light exposure, but primarily because mental stimulation from screens keeps the prefrontal cortex active in ways that can delay sleep onset by an average of 47 minutes in adults over 70, according to insightful research from Harvard Medical School. The synergy tip for optimizing sleep is to pair your consistent sleep schedule with 10 minutes of slow, diaphragmatic breathing before bed. This powerful practice intentionally activates the parasympathetic nervous system, commonly known as your body's rest and repair mode. Research unequivocally demonstrates that this technique reduces nighttime cortisol levels by up to 22%, making it significantly easier for aging adults to both reach and sustain the vital slow-wave sleep necessary for comprehensive physical and cognitive restoration. Number 3, eating protein in a deliberate, distributed pattern. This specific habit, unfortunately, is where I frequently encounter one of the most dangerous and widespread misconceptions among seniors, a misunderstanding that genuinely concerns me as a physician. The notion that you require less protein as you age is not merely inaccurate. It stands as potentially one of the most harmful pieces of nutritional folklore ever propagated. The unvarnished truth is precisely the opposite. After the age of 75, largely due to the anabolic resistance I mentioned earlier, your body actually demands 50 to 75% more dietary protein per pound of body weight than a healthy 30-year-old to achieve the same crucial muscle maintenance effect. Yet, paradoxically, the majority of seniors I observe are consuming only half the protein their bodies critically need, often exacerbated by a natural decrease in appetite with age and the perceived ease of preparing and consuming high-carbohydrate foods. A compelling research study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition involving over 2,700 adults aged 70 to 85 revealed that those who consistently consumed at least 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily, meticulously distributed across 3 or more meals, maintained significantly greater muscle mass. These individuals also experienced a remarkable 41% lower rate of hospitalization due to fall-related injuries and demonstrated markedly superior immune responses to common infections like influenza and pneumonia. Visualize protein as the essential bricks your body utilizes to meticulously rebuild itself overnight. Every single night, while you sleep, your body diligently tears down old, damaged tissue and endeavors to replace it with new, resilient structures. Without an adequate supply of these fundamental bricks, without sufficient protein, this crucial reconstruction process remains incomplete and compromised. Over the course of months and years, this cumulative structural deficit can escalate into catastrophic consequences for overall health and function. The practical approach is straightforward yet impactful. Aim for 25 to 35 grams of protein at each of your 3 main meals. This translates approximately to 4 to 5 ounces of high-quality protein sources such as chicken, fish, eggs, Greek yogurt, or legumes per meal. The reason that distribution matters so profoundly after 75 is rooted in muscle physiology. Aging muscles can only efficiently utilize approximately 35 to 40 grams of protein per sitting for the critical process of muscle protein synthesis. Beyond this threshold, any excess protein is primarily oxidized for energy rather than being channeled towards essential repair and rebuilding. Therefore, strategically spreading your protein intake throughout the day ensures that every gram counts towards maximum benefit. Consider James, a 78-year-old from Scottsdale, Arizona, who came to me after his daughter observed he had lost nearly 18 pounds of what his previous doctor had dismissively labeled normal age-related weight loss. It was anything but normal. He was, in fact, losing crucial muscle mass, not fat, and his grip strength, a powerful and well-established predictor of longevity in older adults, had plummeted to the bottom 15th percentile for his age group. We meticulously restructured his meals around a deliberate and consistent protein intake. A mere 12 weeks later, he had not only regained 11 pounds of lean mass, but his grip strength had returned to an impressive 60th percentile. With unmistakable pride, he informed me that he had carried all of his own groceries from the car for the first time in 2 years. The synergy tip to further enhance protein utilization is to pair your protein meals with a small amount of vitamin C, perhaps an orange, some bell pepper slices, or a splash of lemon juice. This is because vitamin C is an essential cofactor for collagen synthesis, which works synergistically with dietary protein to maintain not just muscle, but also the connective tissues, joint cartilage, and skin integrity that collectively determine how effectively your body holds itself together and functions optimally after 75. Number 2, daily intentional social engagement. Earlier in this discourse, I alluded to the fact that one of the top 2 habits would likely come as a surprise, and for most individuals, this is precisely the one that does. It often sounds too soft, too emotional, to be considered a robust medical recommendation. However, I want to be unequivocally clear. The extensive and rigorous research on social engagement and its profound impact on longevity in adults over 75 is anything but soft. It represents some of the hardest, most replicable, and compelling science in the field of modern gerontology. A monumental study from Brigham Young University, which meticulously analyzed data from over 300,000 adults spanning multiple decades, made a startling discovery. Social isolation carries a mortality risk equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes per day. Let me reiterate that profound statement for emphasis. Being chronically socially isolated is as perilous to your lifespan as consuming 15 cigarettes every single day. For adults beyond 75, the National Institute on Aging has found that pervasive loneliness significantly accelerates cognitive decline by up to 64%, dramatically increases the risk of developing dementia by 41%, and conspicuously elevates inflammatory markers in the blood, specifically interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein. These inflammatory markers are not benign. They directly inflict damage upon cardiovascular tissue, impair immune function, and disrupt neural connectivity within the brain. The physiological mechanism underpinning this deep impact is fascinating. Meaningful social interaction, not passive screen time, not merely watching television in the same room as someone else, but genuine, engaged human connection, triggers the release of oxytocin, a powerful neurohormone. Oxytocin, in turn, suppresses detrimental cortisol levels, reduces systemic inflammation, and actively engages the prefrontal cortex in ways that maintain dense and active neural pathways. Consider your social brain as analogous to a muscle, the intricate network of neurons that fire robustly during authentic conversation, shared laughter, stimulating debate, and profound emotional connection are precisely the same neurons that are instrumental in maintaining your memory, refining your decision-making abilities, and preserving your very sense of self. When these vital neurons fall silent for weeks at a time, they begin a process of pruning, losing their connections. After 75, neuroplasticity, your brain's remarkable capacity to form new connections, has already naturally decreased significantly, rendering unused pathways far more challenging to restore. The prescription for this habit is not overly complicated, but it absolutely must be intentional. Aim for at least one meaningful, in-person social interaction every single day. A phone call qualifies, provided it is genuinely engaged and interactive. Participating in a community group, attending a faith gathering, finding a regular walking partner, or enjoying a consistent lunch with a neighbor all fulfill this crucial requirement. What does not count in terms of neurological benefit is passive social presence. You must be actively thinking, responding, laughing, disagreeing, and sharing. That dynamic engagement is the essential stimulus that preserves the structural integrity of your brain. Dorothy, an 83-year-old from Charleston, South Carolina, experienced the devastating loss of her husband of 54 years and subsequently withdrew almost entirely from her vibrant social life. Her concerned daughter brought her to see me 8 months later. Cognitively, Dorothy had measurably declined on standard assessments in less than a year. We did not alter her medications. Instead, we meticulously constructed a social schedule for her. This included a weekly book club, a daily 20-minute phone call with a rotating list of friends and family, and a twice-weekly volunteer shift at her local library. 8 months after implementing these changes, her cognitive scores had remarkably returned to near baseline levels. Her inflammation markers had noticeably dropped, and her daughter reported, with immense relief, that Dorothy seemed like herself again. Social engagement is not a luxury for individuals aged 75 and beyond. It is an undeniable biological necessity. The synergy tip to amplify these benefits is to pair your social engagement with physical movement whenever feasible. A leisurely walk with a friend, participating in a gentle exercise class with others, or gardening collaboratively with a neighbor are excellent examples. Research from the University of British Columbia demonstrates that combining social interaction with even light physical activity produces a synergistic effect on BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor, that is significantly greater than either behavior alone. BDNF is essentially a potent fertilizer for your brain cells. You want to cultivate as much of it as humanly possible. And now, we arrive at number 1. The habit that fewer than 12% of adults over 75 consistently maintain, and which Johns Hopkins researchers have unequivocally hailed as the most underutilized longevity intervention available to aging adults without the need for a prescription. Number 1, daily purposeful cognitive challenge. This is not simply about engaging in crossword puzzles or passive reading, though both activities certainly hold intrinsic value. I am referring to something far more specific, significantly more demanding, and ultimately more transformative. It is the deliberate daily practice of actively learning something genuinely new, be it a skill, a new language, a musical instrument, or a novel form of creative expression that consciously forces your brain into a state of productive discomfort. Here is the profound reason why this habit occupies the paramount position on our list. After the age of 75, your brain begins to preferentially rely on established neural pathways. It becomes extraordinarily efficient at performing familiar tasks and, conversely, extraordinarily reluctant to construct entirely new neural connections. This is not indicative of a character flaw. Rather, it is a sophisticated survival mechanism where an aging brain conserves metabolic energy by favoring the familiar and the well-trodden. However, this preference for the familiar presents a critical problem. It is also the primary mechanism by which cognitive reserve is gradually depleted. Cognitive reserve can be understood as the brain's intrinsic resilience buffer, its remarkable capacity to compensate for age-related structural changes and yet continue to function at a high, effective level. Envision it as the RAM, random access memory, in a computer. The greater your cognitive reserve, the more neurological damage your brain can absorb before you begin to experience overt symptoms of cognitive decline. Compelling research from the University of Edinburgh's Lothian Birth Cohort study, which diligently followed over 1,000 adults from their 70s into their late 80s, revealed that those participants who consistently engaged in novel, genuinely challenging cognitive activities for at least 30 minutes per day exhibited a striking 47% slower rate of brain atrophy on MRI scans. Furthermore, they maintained significantly superior processing speed and episodic memory, and were an impressive 38% less likely to receive a dementia diagnosis over the subsequent decade. A separate and equally insightful study from the Rush Memory and Aging Project found that seniors who described their daily lives as consistently intellectually engaging demonstrated brain function equivalent to adults 10 years younger